Cartoon Network, October 2008. Remember the year back when it seemed like Cartoon Network actually gave a shit about the programs they had on TV?
You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it! He won't.
Every other year we would have a new Scooby-Doo or Tom and Jerry movie on. Billy, Mandy, and the Spider Queen would be on air constantly. And since this was Halloween, we had the Scary Godmother on every Friday and Thursday night. But I do remember one thing in particular being advertised constantly and relentlessly, but for some reason I had no interest in watching it. Scooby-Doo and the Goblin King. So growing up in the mid to late 2000s, Scooby-Doo movies were kind of a festive thing. Every single year we would pretty much have a new Scooby-Doo movie. We had one where they faced the abominable snowman, one where they went to Egypt, the mummy one, or one when they were looking for a giant stone at the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, that one was kind of weird, but it was kind of meta too. And they just came out every single year and was broadcasted on Cartoon Network. But this Scooby-Doo movie was kind of an odd one in particular, not just because of the story, but also because of the time it took place and the events that followed after. Because when you look at the year, this Scooby-Doo movie also came out the same year where many animation fans could say was the end of Cartoon Network's golden age, which was 2008. This is right at the end where we see that Grand Adventures of Billy and Mandy ended, Ed, Edd and Eddy ended, Chowder ended, Flapjack ended. Pretty much all the shows that carried the 2000s Cartoon Network kids pretty much ended.
Please! No!
Which carried all through 2009, which we know as Cartoon Network's dark years, where they decided to invest all into live-action television and rebrand it to See and Real. And we didn't really see that much of Scooby-Doo or any Scooby-Doo movies that came following until Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which came out in 2010, where they pretty much kind of like rebranded fully the image. And this was kind of odd to many of the kids that grew up in Cartoon Network in particular, because we were kind of used to seeing a new Scooby-Doo movie every single year. So it was kind of like, more or less, the end of an era. I only wish that this movie was so much better than it actually was. So as the movie starts off, you'll immediately start noticing that there's something pretty wrong. You know how usually when Scooby-Doo movies or Scooby-Doo shows, they start off with a mystery to set up the setting and set up the theme. This is a mystery show. But with this movie, it already starts giving you ham-fist of what I believe is one of this movie's biggest drawbacks, which is the overbearing use of its theme. This movie uses its theme of being in Halloween more than any Christmas movie I've ever seen in my life. But nonetheless, this movie starts off with the gang and them just riding a Halloween-themed roller coaster, starting off with a music montage, kind of like how they do when Scooby and Shaggy run away from the monsters and the music playing in the background, yada yada. And that is also not the only thing. It's kind of filling off when you start this movie. You start noticing that when they come off the roller coaster, the character traits that they've had since the 70s aren't really there. You see, Scooby and Shaggy aren't those reluctant, scared dudes that we've seen in every single Scooby-Doo media since the dawn of Scooby-Doo. For some reason, they're mischievous, they're weird, or in my opinion, they're complete assholes. Like in this movie, Scooby-Doo and the gang are assholes in this movie. This is one of the few Scooby-Doo movies where I was adamantly rooting against the main characters just because I just didn't particularly like their motivations, or I just felt like they were assholes. So Scooby, Shaggy, and the group wanted to see a magician show named The Amazing Krudsky. But before they go in, Scooby was shaking water off himself because he got wet and doused the magician with water. And this starts with my first nerve-wracking part of the movie. The movie tries to make you, in particular, hate this magician and make him seem like an asshole. Like, oh, why is he kicking Scooby and the gang out the show? Why is he not letting them in the show? But you have to look at it from a realistic perspective, okay? If you're a magician getting ready to go on the show, and you just got doused with water from a wet dog that apparently talks and is partly anthropomorphic, I'd be mad and freaking out too. Would I automatically be in the wrong if for retaliation against that I would say no dogs in the show? Like, yeah, you can say that's too much, but the dude has a show to perform. It's his job, and you just got him like fully wet and doused. Like, have a little sympathy. This leads into evidence number 2 of Scooby and Shaggy being assholes. So, upon reaction of them not being able to get into the show, Shaggy and Scooby decide to expose and ruin the magician's show. They pretty much ruin the show, and they get themselves and the gang kicked out of the carnival. Which is understandable, but I just hate how the movie keeps trying to make it seem like we should hate this character, Krudsky.
There's no mystery here, Scoob. Like the amazing Krudsky is just a make-believe magician.
So after the assholes, I mean the gang, ruined the Krudsky show, we have one of these cliche scenes where Krudsky is just in his circus tent just talking about all his woes and how he wants to be a magician and how much he wishes that magic was real. And I just love how in these old cartoons and shows, when they just need to dump exposition to tell us about the villain, they just have him just sit somewhere in silence and just go over all the things that they should probably already know and just say in their head. It's like, who are you talking to? Is this a poor attempt at breaking the fourth wall? Like, I too, when I sit alone in my room, I'm just like, damn, why didn't I talk to that waitress yesterday? Jeez. Man, maybe if I just say it out loud towards this wall, something will happen differently. Get yourselves mentally prepared, because a lot of bullshit's about to happen in one scene, and you might get lost in the sauce if you're not following what I'm about to say very attentively. Anyway, so as he's chanting that and giving us expositions, because, you know, the movie has to give us a reason to think this dude's pathetic and hate him constantly, a magical Tinkerbell type fairy flies into his room for no apparent reason, because, you know, he needs to have magic pretty much fall in his lap to get this plot moving. And as she flies through his room, she for some reason decides it's cool to mess with him, because her, like the plot, hates Krudsky. Like, I don't know, like, this character was just meant for us to hate him. Like, she just hates him, the plot hates him, she's just messing with him for no reason. So she messes with him to the point where he becomes aware of her, and through a series of dumb events, somehow catches her, even though she could have completely avoided it if she wasn't a dumbass.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way.
Scooby-Doo and the Goblin King now continues with the flicks.
So while Krudsky's dealing with the fairy, Scooby and Shaggy decide to go up to one of the most cliche moments that are in pretty much every single Halloween special or scary movie, where there's the scariest house on the top of the hill. That, for some reason, this Scooby and Shaggy in this movie, like I said, that they don't carry any of the traits of any of the previous Scooby-Doo movies that we've seen before. They decide that they want to go there because, you know, apparently in this movie Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are assholes and they're brave. So they decide to go there and meet our friendly walking expedition dump / pretty much useless character named Mr. Gibbles, which gears us into one of this movie's most horrific crimes, which is making me sit through a horrible Halloween musical number that I had to force myself to sit through and not skip immediately. Should make my ears bleed.
When vampires take a bite. That's scary! Don't you know there's still hope? Take it from me. You can have protection for a nominal fee. Tonight the dark and light unite a magical mystery.
So after Mr. Gibbles tortures the audience with audible waterboarding tactics, the fairy princess, apparently, shows up at the house looking for a place to seek refuge from Krudsky, who is right on her tail to take more magic. Krudsky then appears at the door on some Gandalf shit and proceeds to take the princess, have a magic fight with Gibbles, and turn Gibbles into a rabbit. Also, why does this movie have like the worst magic spell language? Like, I'm not expecting them to go above and beyond with it, but like, I mean, come on. It sounds like they took a few lines from a bunch of Robert Frost poems and copied and pasted them into the scripts. So Gibbles, now a rabbit, inquires Scooby and Shaggy's reluctant help by showing them what would happen at midnight if they allowed Krudsky to gain the Goblin Scepter. And wait, I got another question. How come Krudsky says he searched all his life for magic to no avail, but literally lives down the street from a magical creature who owns a magical Halloween shop with bookshelves full of grimoires? Bridging the gap must have been too hard for the writers, or made too much sense, since, like, it seems like they already committed to this movie being mostly nonsensical. But, anyways, Gibbles sends Shaggy and Scooby on a quest to get the Goblin Scepter from the Goblin King. Before Krudsky, because apparently he will break the supernatural order, cause everyone to become monsters, or whatever. I don't know. They were pretty vague with the implications of the supernatural world being confined to the rules of Halloween night. And Mr. Gibbles turned Scooby and Shaggy into monsters, where they get on a Halloween Polar Express to the spirit world. Wait, this is the spirit world? Like from Avatar? We get a pretty cool animation sequence as they travel to the spirit world, which then, their monster disguises immediately wear off, which I'm just like, what's the usefulness of having that spell put on them, but whatever. And they enter some Halloween Mos Eisley Cantina ripoff. That steers us into another horrible music number that I had to sit through, even though everything in my body was telling me to plug my ears and run away from my laptop. The musical number ended, to my joy, with Shaggy mentioning the Goblin King, which, in this world, I guess is like saying Voldemort or Eveline from The Wiz, because immediately some George and Lenny-esque goblins, dubbed the Shadow Goblins, came to arrest Shaggy and Scooby.
Beside you, nobody messes with the Shadow Goblins.
If you mess with the tunnel snakes, you're asking for it. Got me?
Until they got saved by the most goated character in this movie, Jack-O-Lantern. I mean, Jack-O-Lantern was kind of like the only bright point in this movie to me. The man just wanted to party away and not really think about his short existence that only lasts a day each year with the candle in his mouth. We then go into some random hijinks as apparently the Jack-O-Lantern's body, the Headless Horseman, is after them. This sequence is kind of a waste of time though, because they resolve it in a very stupid way.
Zoinks! Like, why did he stop?
Well, duh. That's the Horseman's one fatal flaw. He can't cross covered bridges.
So we enter back into Krudsky bargaining with the Goblin King while the Mystery Gang is spying on them, and I was very conflicted with the rest of the Mystery Gang in this movie, because even though I know they are the good guys and they have to be involved to push the story forward, I just don't understand why they chose to get involved. Like, I understand saving Shaggy and Scooby, but like, what does the fairy whatever magic mess Krudsky has going on have to do with them? Like, I finally understand why people in this show call them meddling kids, because they keep meddling. Jack-O-Lantern takes Shaggy and Scooby to some witch's hut and pretty much abandons them. But hey, at least he left them with some useless quote of the day.
You guys rescued me from the brainless horseman, hello? That took real courage. And everybody knows courage is the most powerful magic of all.
They met the three wishes and... hold on. Is that a Yoruichi reference? I don't know, but that cat witch is doing something to me. Maybe this movie's better than I thought. Scooby and Shaggy got tips and directions from the witches and rides a flaccid broomstick onwards to the Goblin Castle, until they get knocked out of the sky by the Goblin King's anti-air defense. Luckily, they landed into a fairy forest with a bunch of Tinkerbell and Friends ripoffs who then guide them to the Goblin King's underground castle, where they are having a huge Halloween rager. Now, this next scene confused me to no avail, and pretty much single-handedly convinced me to make this review in the first place. So Scooby and Shaggy drink the potion that they received from the witches, which in turn just turned them into nothing. They just show up in what looks like bad Velma and Daphne cosplay, which swoon all the monsters. And seeing this, I immediately have two questions. One, if it was a magic potion, why didn't the animators just go ahead and animate them fully as Daphne and Velma and just let them keep their voices? It would have made more sense. And two, I thought the monsters eat humans and stuff, so why are they now all of a sudden horny for two baddies? Is it because this party is a giant sausage fest or something? Oh, and bonus question. Are these two goblins the only goblins that work for the king? Like, first they were on patrol, then they were manning anti-air defense, and now they're bouncers? Oh, I guess they aren't the only goblins. Looking at this party and the attendees, I don't know if they are in the underworld or a frat house in Hoboken. At least the music number in this scene isn't all that bad. It was actually kind of catchy. Also, Scooby and Shaggy attempt to steal the scepter, and fail obviously, and they are taken to the dungeon as apparently the Goblin Hour arrives, where the Goblin King unleashes goblins or something to bring out terror, which I must say, I feel like there's years of lore I'm missing with this because things just start happening with no explanation. The Goblin King then meets with Krutsky to bargain using the fairy princess as a hostage, but of course, the gang who couldn't mind their own business comes in and ruins everything. I'm sorry, I may sound like a hater, but I really don't like the Mystery Gang in this movie. Like, everything that happens to them is deserved. So Shaggy and Scooby get freed by the fairies they met earlier, and ride with Jack-o'-lantern back to the real world to stop Krutsky. Jack then uses a spirit bomb on Krutsky, Scooby grabs the scepter, and saves the day, as to be expected with Scooby-Doo movies. But, before this movie ends, we learn the most nonsensical plot twist that literally broke my brain, and also, I feel, broke the logic of this movie. We find out the Goblin King is the fairy princess's dad.
No. And I'm sorry, Daddy.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way.
Like, how the fuck does that even work? Weren't all the fairies in the forest terrified of the Goblin and the Goblin King? Didn't they say the balance was off? Wouldn't that be like a conflict of interest to have a princess representing all of you and have direct ties with your enemy? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it. But anyways, the movie ends with all the monsters going back to the spirit world and everyone's memory outside of Shaggy and Scooby's being wiped. Overall, this movie wasn't the worst thing in the world, I guess, but it just wasn't a good Scooby-Doo movie. It was just a generic Halloween special that they could have put any set of IP characters and get the same result. Hell, they could have replaced Scooby and Shaggy with Tom and Jerry and that get the exact same movie. 2 out of 3 of the songs were horrible, and the plot consisted too much of and then scenes, which is just not how you should write a story. The story should contrive of, because this happened, or because of this. Filling your stuff full of and then scenes makes the story stale and takes the cohesiveness out of the plot. But to give the movie some props, the animation was pretty solid, I guess. The mystery in this movie was pretty non-existent, so I can't really rate that. So overall, I'd give this movie 4 Scoobies out of 10 Doos. I'm gonna go watch an actual good Halloween special, like Under Fist, or the 16 Zombie special. Y'all are real ones if you guys remember those. Might be coming into some future reviews. Thank you guys for sticking with me all the way through this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.